And welcome back to our first showcase game of Week 6 of the Rainbow Pitch League. My name is Kiki and I'll be your commentator for today. This week was brought to you by Paper Collective, Arsenal Pass, Fabric, and Melody Likes. Now for this first game we have two of the most prominent players that we've had enter this league. We have Yuki on Lexi, and we have the Dragon Empress, Mara, on Dromai. So we're going to start this game off, and it looks like we're going to start with Mara, looking to pitch a card, try to get some ash, and see what she can kind of develop on the board for this first turn. So we're going to see the arm piece, giving damage prevention, which isn't going to be relevant here, but it does provide the first ash token for Mara, and she does get to opt before deciding what to do from here as well. Now, interestingly, both players do have plays they could potentially make on this first turn. Of course, Mara could try to develop her board state and make some dragons. Looks like this furnace is going to be used here to make another ash, but also provide two resources to play this mirror guy on turn 1. Now, Lexi does have a few poppers in her deck, so the mirror guy will be relevant. It does have a reasonably high life at 4, however, most of the arrows are able to actually come in and deal 4 damage, and now we're going to see a Voltaire from Lexi's side, and here's an Endless Arrows. This lines up perfectly for Yuki, with 4 damage being able to be dealt to the mirror guy, as well as it being able to come back. Rangers do generally tend to struggle against clearing these dragons because of the lack of a weapon that kind of keeps itself alive, but this Endless Arrows is going to do a great job of emulating that sort of effect. And here we have an attack with the mirror guy, dealing 2 damage, but Yuki's able to block it out with another Endless Arrows, but she's already loaded up with 2 arrows, one of which naturally has Go Again, and one of which can clear the dragon, so Yuki has a powerful setup start here. Mara is able to retain a card to Arsenal, leaving her with a 5-card hand for the following cycle. Yuki just drawing up here as well, starting with 6 cards on her first turn. That's pretty powerful. There goes the tunic counter going up to 1. And as you can see, Yuki does have the Bullseye Bracers. Now this card is recently banned. However, this league started before the ban list announcement happened, so it is legal for the remainder of this event. And here we see the Go Again arrow coming in for 3. Thankfully they have these counters here to kind of represent the power on these cards. A nice visual for us players over here. Life totals are nice and clear. Now let's see how Mara's going to respond here. She's going to take the 3 damage, choosing to retain the cards in hand, try to have a bigger play. This doesn't have an on-hit, so it's kind of safe for Mara to take this. Not really worth losing the card, especially if she's thinking that she's going to lose the dragon this turn. Yuki follows this up with an activation of the Voltaire, using the second arsenal slot provided by that New Horizon. Let's see what arrow she puts in. And here we have a Heat Seeker. This is a powerful arrow that deals 5 damage normally. And if this hits, Yuki is allowed to look at the top card of her arsenal of her deck rather, and add it to her arsenal if she wishes, face up. But it looks like we're going to get a full block here for 5 using the Skull Cap. Now Mara's usually known for playing the Crown of Dominion in her Dromai deck. However, she feels she needs to use the Skull Cap in Lexi matchups. She kind of prefers to have the additional blocking resources there in this, as shown with the Furnace and the Skull Cap. That's a potential 6 points of defense later through the game. And here we have a Hamstring Shot. Now this one's a super frustrating one for Dromai players to deal with. It's almost like giving your opponent a Frostbite. It's going to make their next attack cost 1 more. Similar to a Frostbite, and these Dromai decks are very low to the ground in terms of the resources, or specifically Mara's list. Mara, known for being quite an aggressive Dromai player, her list has a lot of 0 cost and 1 cost cards, not really wanting to pitch more than 1 card outside of some rare circumstances, so this is a pretty powerful arrow to have here, just really kind of slowing down Mara's gameplay. And Yuki's chosen to give this go again, so this Endless Arrows is most likely going to be coming at this mirror guy, just trying to keep the dragons under control for a bit. And here we're seeing another block. We're seeing the Flamescale Furnace, as well as a Sink Below. So this is actually defending for 6 here, which is more than enough on the Hamstring Shot. But Mara looks like she's not content with one of the cards in her hand and wants to give it another go. Defensive 6 here. Usually that'd be great for the 6 power kind of arrows that come at the end of a turn with the Voltaire. But in this case, you just gotta do what you gotta do. Yuki's been able to take 2 of the equipment out, and because the Endless Arrows comes back, she's able to re-arsenal it and clear up that mirror guy. So Yuki quite in a commanding position right now in terms of controlling the board. And here we see another dragon. This one is Yanderai. Now, this one only has 3 health, which doesn't seem like much initially, and it does attack for 3, which is quite high for one of the 1-cost dragons. However, the upside of Yanderai is it comes in with a shield counter. As you can see, Mara placing one now. This shield counter will prevent up to 3 damage when it first gets hit. So, interestingly enough, if you're able to attack it with a Endless Arrows, the 1 damage will still leak through, but it's going to have 2 life left because of the 3 damage prevented. Now, one of the ways Yuki could get around that is with Rain Razor, which is one of the more powerful cards in the Lexi deck. It just enables a huge amount of damage turns, and it makes that Endless Arrows a nice clean 6. So let's see how Yuki deals with this, because Yanderai is otherwise a vanilla dragon, only dealing 3, which isn't nothing to kind of sneeze at, I guess, but it's not applying any sort of on-hit effects here. Now, it looks like Mara's attacked with this dragon, and Yuki's contemplating a block with 1 card. Hasn't quite committed to the block fully just yet, so the card is face down while she contemplates whether she does want to block this vanilla damage or not. Of course, with the Yanderai, you could also potentially come at it twice with this Endless Arrows, if you kind of want to clear it off. And it'll take some time, but it is an option, but we're taking the 3 here, and now we have a Dust Up. A super powerful card here. This one costs 0 for 4 damage, and when it hits, Mara creates 1 Ash and is able to turn one of them into an Ash Ring if she chooses. 0 for 4 is kind of a key element of Mara's Empress-style Dromai deck, where it's going to be 0 for 4s. We see a lot of them in this deck. Some of them have on hits like Snatch and Dust Up. And yeah, it's just a way to kind of maintain that aggression, meanwhile not spending that many resources. And also it's a way to kind of play around the poppers, especially if you can give them go again somehow, or just a nice way to kind of close the chain, or if you have to block out with most of the cards in your hand. It's just super efficient. And looks like he's considering giving 2 cards here, but of course giving 2 cards means that she's less likely to be able to stop the Yanderai from progressing. So it'll be kind of interesting, because the other option as well is if Yuki decides to take some of the damage from this, the Ash Ring, is potentially a lot of damage across multiple turns, but it's not quite enough to kind of throw an arrow at it normally. So a lot of interesting decision points here for Yuki to decide how she wants to deal with this. Of course, Yuki doesn't really have equipment that blocks this early in the game. She could defend with a Tunic or a New Horizon, but both of those cards are pretty key for Lexi's game plan overall, needing the additional resources maybe for a 3-of-a-kind turn, but also New Horizon just provides Lexi with 2 arsenals for the majority of the game. Also to note, Yuki has Snapdragon Scalers rather than the Perch Grapplers, so that's not going to be a defensive tool there for her, but will allow her to apply a lot more damage later on. We're still thinking on this block here. Mara doesn't have any cards in hand, I believe, so we're going to end this turn with a 4-card hand, no arsenal. Yuki's choosing to take the 4 damage here. There's the Ash Ring. The Ash was created as well, but the Ash Ring immediately comes into play, so we don't need to change that dice number. Pitch goes to the bottom, and Mara's drawing 4 cards. And Yuki here with 5 cards. Does she kind of have enough damage here to deal with this Yanderai? Is she even going to bother dealing with this Yanderai? There's the Lexi Flip to reveal an Endless Arrows. Now, of course, this one doesn't have a talent, so it's not going to trigger either of Lexi's effects, but it does open up a 2nd arsenal slot. And we're just thinking a little bit here about the pitch and the sequencing. Pretty important to get your sequencing right with Lexi in regards to how you're going to order your arrows, where the Voltaire is going to give go again versus where the Voltaire is going to give +1. There's a plethora of on-hit effects on the stack, and here we see a 2nd Endless Arrows. This one looks like it's hard to tell what this one's coming at. With the webcam games, it's not exactly clear as to where these arrows are going, but we will see it soon enough, depending on whether the life totals change, cards get blocked. Of course, If nothing gets blocked and we see a dragon move off the field, we can pretty safely assume that it came for the dragon. And there we are. There is the counter removed from the Ender Eye, and like we mentioned before, it does still deal 1 damage and therefore does go back to the hand. And now we're going to see a second Voltaire activation, pitching this Endless Arrows, and we're getting a Blood Rot arrow? I can't quite remember the name of this arrow, but it does provide 1 Blood Rot token to the opponent, if it hits. So this one should be coming in for 5 damage with Go Again. And let's see how Mara chooses to respect this. This deck, Mara's deck, has a lot of red cards. It seems almost impossible to pay for a Blood Rot, so that was functionally coming in for 7 should that hit. But there was a block for 5 there, and here we have the Endless Arrows clearing up the Ender Eye, and we're left with just the Ash Ring that we mentioned earlier may or may not be a bit of a struggle to deal with. One of the cards that Mara blocked with was Nourishing Emptiness, which is a very exciting card. Now, we've obviously seen attacks go to the graveyard at this point in the game. We saw the Dust Up earlier. But with Burn Them All, there's a really interesting interaction where you can kind of remove your attack actions from your graveyard. It kind of makes you a little bit less vulnerable to Codex. If you don't want to discard cards to your hand, but there's no attacks in your arsenal, no attacks in your graveyard, then, that's fine. This was a massive turn. We had a Dromai here, didn't get popped. There was an attack for 3, Yuki chose to take it. There was 1 from the Ash Ring, Yuki also chose to take that. Popping that wouldn't do anything if she even had a popper because of the extra action point from the Dromai. And now we have another one of those 0 for 4s. This one's a Snatch. And we're at a really interesting point again where the 0 for 4 breakpoint does provide some value to Yuki, but it's not strictly value for this turn. Now there could be an arsenal, but the other thing to consider is that Mara's deck is very low to the ground, so there's a Snapdragon Scalers on Mara's side, well, on both sides really, and if this hits, Mara could potentially choose to play that card. So it's something for Yuki to consider here. Now, if it just takes double block, I'm pretty sure Mara's happy for Yuki to lose 2 cards here as well. So it's a really tough position for Yuki to be in. Yuki does kind of want to keep all these cards in hand, but she does still have that Endless Arrow, so this Dromai is probably not long for this world, at least in the meantime. She does have to be mindful, though, that she is currently down 8 life, so 29 to 37. It is still a bit of an early game at this point, but the Dromai decks do have a tendency to kind of snowball and kind of build up this advantage over time by creating a board state. There is also, of course, a chance that, sorry, I forgot my train of thought there. Okay, so it looks like the Snatch is hit. There was no reaction on the attack reaction, so of course it won't be possible to play this card unless it was an instant, something like a Sigil of Solace, but in this case, no. It looks like we're thinking about either arsenaling it or pitching it to create an Ash. Mara does have no Ash at the moment, which is a pretty key part of this deck. So it'll be interesting to see what we see here. If it's an arsenal, it could be a powerful 0-4 attack again. It could be a defense reaction if she's chosen to keep some of those in this matchup. We'll just have to wait and see. So Mara does draw 4 cards there, and we send it back to Yuki's turn with a full 5-card grip. Chose not to block, so I expect to see a relatively powerful turn here, especially with the 3rd counter on the Tunic, functionally acting as an additional resource, which sometimes is the difference of a whole card. Sometimes you just need that 1 extra resource. Sometimes it's great because you can play a 3 of a kind off it without having to commit any cards from your hand, give you a few more options. But of course, first we see the Lexi flip, just to ensure that we have the 2nd arsenal slot available to her. And we're pitching in blue here, spending a resource on... What are we spending a resource on? On the Voltaire. Most likely giving go... Oh, no. If that's a Bolden Shot, we're definitely not giving go again. We're going to give a +1. But no, this is a Frost Lock. So this one's coming in for 3 damage with go again. There was no Ice Fuse, so it doesn't have an on-hit. But what it will do is make reactions and instants cost 1 more for this combat chain, I believe. So here's 3. And what is this one coming at? It looks like it's going at Mara. Yuki making sure that she wants to use Endless Arrows on the dragons to clear them to retain the card availability, essentially. Even though it's dealing more damage. Oh, and here we see the Rain Razors. So now this Frostlock, which didn't seem super interesting previously, is now coming in for 5 damage. And this is going to be a great way to kind of catch up on these life totals. Yuki's currently down by 12, so she does need to do quite a bit to kind of keep up on the life total. Mara's been doing a reasonably good job, has been doing a very good job of protecting her life total, to keep this life total advantage up, meanwhile still applying pressure. Yeah, so we will have to see. There's 5 damage. Functionally vanilla 5 damage, but it's okay because it has Go Again, and Yuki still has access to one more card in hand, as well as this free endless arrows. These arrows truly are endless. Potentially. As long as there's dragons in play, these arrows are pretty endless. Let's just see where this one comes in, though. Because this could be the end of the turn here if this isn't coming at a dragon. No, it is coming at a dragon, but we're getting the Snapdragon Scalar's activation here to give this Go Again. And it's going back to the hand, just trying to clear off the arsenal a little bit. Because, as we saw earlier, there was a Bolden Shot. Now, Bolden Shot, if it has higher power than its base, then it gains Go Again naturally, but also it gains the on-hit to reload. Now, of course, the reload, you can only do it if your arsenal is entirely empty. So Yuki essentially spending the Snapdragon Scalars just to kind of ensure that she can reload this Endless Arrows at the end of turn. Bolden Shot coming in for 7. This is a pretty awkward card to block. The Skullcap's not available at the moment with Mara having more life. And the Flamescale Furnace could be used here, but that's a pretty important ash generator, and like I mentioned in the previous turn, Mara doesn't have any ash at the moment. So this is going to be a tough card for Mara to block. It will take 3 cards, but maybe that's exactly what she kind of needs. Or maybe like she can block 3 cards and still have enough to still apply pressure with the dragon in play, maybe play a card from hand involving pitching to get an ash for a future turn. It'll be interesting to see. But for the meantime, 7 damage. Let's see how Mara takes this. The 7 damage is the life total difference at the moment. This is maybe all she needs to catch up. It looks like Yuki might have 1 more life than she should. I think we have the correct number on the bottom, I've been told. And I think it gets corrected soon enough. But 7 life point difference. This Bolden Shot coming in, clearing that off, so now it's a tied game. And we will get a reload trigger with this on hit. But it looks like the players have stopped. Just to talk about what's happening here, just confirm life totals most likely. I think this is, yeah, there we go. Yeah. So, equal life totals here. Coming in for 7. There's the reload. And we're probably going to clear this Ashwing, I have to assume. Or is the 6 damage kind of too tempting here? It's so hard to see. But the dragon hasn't been immediately moved, so it looks like we might get some blocking here. Yuki wasn't able to take any of the cards out of Mara's hand, so maybe she's decided that this Endless Arrows has done enough throughout the course of this game. Has been endless enough. We're getting a block with a Rake the Embers here, which is an ash generator, but also there's just very few ash there. Pitching a sand cover, and we're getting a Sink Below. And we had to pitch the sand cover because of the Frostlock there, so Mara was able to generate an ash there. However, she has no more cards in hand, just the card in arsenal. Oh, sorry, there was a Sink Below effect. So she has 1 card in hand. Yeah, once again, Mara just not being content with the card in hand, feeling like it could be better. Has 2 cards available to her this turn. So let's see. We're probably not going to get the Dragon attack before something happens. There's a pitch for a Caloria. Now, Caloria is Mara's favorite dragon. As we asked when we did the Tale of the Tape. And this dragon strikes fear into many mechanologists. I'm very familiar, but this one is 4 coming for 4. Kind of like a Snatch, but a repeatable one if it's not dealt with. However, if there's an item in play, instead it steals the item, which is pretty crucial in some matchups. Not even just for dash, but you can try to steal a potion from some players. Even if they end up using it in response, you end up kind of just functionally force them to waste resources. So a super powerful dragon here, but in this case, it is a Snatch. And as you can see, there's a Snatch that's been pitched for this as well. That Snatch being an alpha foil, I believe. with the pink stripe kind of matching Mara's pink hair. So very exciting stuff there. I'm very familiar with cards from back in the day. They make me very happy. So I'm happy to see that Alpha Snatch there. But we have the big golden dragon trying to get an additional card from Mara, and we're kind of in a similar position we were previously, where we had like the Snatch and the Dust Up. These 4 damage attacks, super awkward when you don't have any equipment to kind of stop the on-hit. And unlike the Snatch, this one already has Go Again. So this is a dragon worth popping if that was the case. So I can only assume there's no popper here in Yuki's hand. But does this respect... Like, does Yuki respect this with 2 cards enough? Yuki doesn't have the Endless Arrows anymore. One of them's in the graveyard being blocked with on turn 0, and the other one being blocked out last turn with that Sink below. So we don't quite have a clean 1-card block here. It will hinder Yuki's ability to play a big turn next turn, but like, Caloria's pretty powerful. You do kind of have to respect it, but maybe you have to end up taking some damage here just so you can clear it and still apply some pressure. And this Ashwin's kind of stuck around for quite a while now. So that Dust Up really adding up. I wonder what Yuki could be thinking here with these 4 cards. Does have to be a little bit more conservative with the arrows now that the Endless Arrow's gone. We did actually see one pitched as well, so it's going to be a while before we see another one, if we even get to that point. We're already at 15 life, 16 life down. I tried to do a percentage in my head, but I couldn't think fast enough. And here we're going to see a Volter activation in Mara's turn, and this is a fantastic use of this tunic, similar to what Prism players used to do back when she was in Constructed, where you're able to play at instant speed just to get that tunic counter immediately, start that cycle once again 1 turn sooner. And there was an arrow, the Go Again arrow, I think it's Falcon Wing, I can't quite remember the name, but there was no action to follow it up with afterwards, just that. And here we have the Burn Them All. And Burn Them All is a super powerful card here, deals 1 arcane damage with the first dragon attack of each of Mara's turn, at the cost of having to banish red cards at the end of Mara's turn equal to the number of counters that it has. Now, of course, it gains a counter at the end of each turn as well. So, we're going to... Oh, there we see a popper. The first popper, and it was used on the Ashwing. So that does end Mara's action phase, I guess. There's no more actions left, but Mara is able to play a Sigil to gain 3 life and still activate the Furnace. So as far as not having a turn goes, that was probably the best time, for Mara's sake, for that popper to kind of appear. Now, both players in this matchup will be playing Command and Conquer. It's pretty good in Mara's deck as a way to kind of clear the arsenal or threaten the arsenal. One of the most powerful on-hits that Mara could represent, and also... And Yuki, she'll be playing it because it has 6 power, and 6 power destroys all the illusionist attacks, or a large majority of them anyway. And there we see the first counter on the Burn Them All. 2 Ash tokens, and we've kind of matched the tokens to the aesthetic of the card. Ash being black, Fires being red. And here we're seeing a blue pitch to use a 3 of a kind, a super powerful card that's bringing Yuki back up to 4 cards plus the arsenal, but she's restricted to only playing cards from the arsenal for the remainder of the turn. But thankfully, Voltaire is a great way to get around it because it puts the attack into the arsenal first before doing anything. So it's going to be potentially a quite aggressive arrows attack. An arrow attack kind of turn. We're not going to see any Rain Razors this turn, at least not being played. Because we can only play cards from the arsenal here. But here we get a Drill Shot. So this Drill Shot is probably going to come in for 4, rather, I have to guess, with so many cards in hand. But of course there's a chance that Yuki just didn't draw any arrows from this 3 of a kind. Variance does occur, and if that's the case, maybe we see the +1, but it's hard to tell without the damage counter here. There we are at 4, so this one does have Go Again. This one has Piercing as well, which would make it really awkward to block with the equipment, but we see a clean 1-card block with the Sink below, and are we going to see a third Sink for the... Rather, a Sink for the 3rd time this game on Mara's side. We're contemplating a bit here. Looks like it's still on Mara's kind of turn. But, not turn rather, but decision. But, like I mentioned, this Drill Shot did have Piercing. Oh, no? Okay, well, back into the game. And here we're getting a Bolden Shot. This one's getting +1 to give this one go again. Now, crucially, there's a card in Arsenal, so the on-hit effect of reloading isn't occurring here. This is just a 3 damage go again attack. But Yuki still has 2 cards in hand, so who knows what we could see here. Of course, she can't actually play any of the cards in hand, so she may just settle for, like, an Arsenal. There's going to be no buffs here. This is 3 damage go again. And looks like we could just see 4 damage here. Just a 4 damage vanilla with no damage bonuses here. There's no way to give damage bonuses as far as I'm aware. But 0 for 4 isn't bad, even if it doesn't have any on-hits. Yuki just needs to find a way to kind of keep these life totals close. If she falls too far behind, then Mara is able to potentially take these large turns that Lexi has the potential to deliver. The other thing to note as well, regarding that, is if you can get Dromai low enough, there becomes a point where you can start ignoring the dragons and just go straight for the life total. If you can kind of take every card out of Mara's hand, the only way to attack with multiple dragons then would be Dromai. But there we go, there's an Arsenal. We're getting 1 card kept in Yuki's hand, so we're going to see a draw for 3. And I like what Yuki did there, just moving the hand up forward before putting the pitch on the bottom, just to make it really clear that this card is still in my hand, and there's no kind of awkward mess-ups there. It's just very nice and clean. And here we see another Yanderai. So we talked about Yanderai earlier being kind of manageable to deal with these endless arrows, but we don't have those endless arrows anymore. So this one may be a bit difficult to deal with without some sort of damage bonus. And speaking of damage, this one's coming in for 4 because of that burn them all. So suddenly this life total is kind of moving back into Mara's favor. This life total lead, rather. But that is the end of Mara's turn after the blocks and such. So we have 2 cards banished now, and the Yanderai is kind of in play. And the life total difference is only 5. So maybe this Yanderai is kind of ignorable if there isn't a clean way to deal with this. But here we see a Codex of Frailty. This card has been super impressive since it's come out. Arguably one of the most powerful cards from Outsiders. And we see the lovely Marvel foiling there. But it's going to cause... Is that another Codex? I think we have another Codex in Yuki's hand as well. So this turn could potentially be super powerful here. And here we're going to see a Searing Shot. This is an Arcane Rising Arrow coming in for 4 damage, and if this hits, it makes the opponent lose 1 life as well. So it's functionally 5, but can be blocked for 4 to prevent the entirety of it. But crucially, it calls 0. And 0 is a pretty good number. And here we see a Rain Raises, so it's no longer coming in for 5. It's now functionally 7, as there was no blocks here. And this is massive. This is exactly the kind of turn that Yuki needs to kind of, well, not just keep up the life total, but now get an advantage on the life total. And I have a feeling this Yanderai might be ignored this turn, so we'll just have to wait and see. With these double codexes, there's just so much damage coming through. And it looks like he's definitely contemplating a codex play here. And we're playing the one from hand. So Yuki now has no cards left in hand, has 2 resources remaining plus the tunic, giving a Frailty to Mara, a Ponder for herself, and getting to choose an arrow of her choice from the arsenal. And then, who knows, maybe we're going to see it again afterwards. Now, what kind of arrow is she going to choose here? Probably something like a Bolden Shot. It does have the damage bonus from the Serene Razors. So it's kind of a way to get a go again arrow. And yeah, there we go. Here's a Bolden Shot. There's no cards in hand, so we're not going to care about the reload. But here we go, 6 damage with the Rain Razors with Go Again. And Rain Razors really showing how powerful of a card it is here. This one essentially calls 0. And it looks like we're going to get, 3 attacks? So it's functionally a 0 cost 6 damage, and here we go, down to 11. The life totals have had a massive swing in Yuki's favor, and Mara's just unable to block here. Like, if she blocks with everything, then all she's going to be able to do is attack with this Yanderai, not have much left, but the life total difference is still there. There's most likely another arrow coming in here with the Frailty token, and because this Bolden Shot has no effect, I can understand the block here, or the lack of block here. Now, will this 3rd arrow, if it comes up, make a difference and make Mara want to block? A few cards we could get here. with this second codex, should you choose to use it. We have the endless arrows. We could bring back those endless arrows, and it's going to come in for 6, so it will cleanly kill the Enderai if that's the choice. And we have 2 Ponders and 2 Frailty, of course. And we're getting Hate Seeker. So with the resources, this is going to come in for 7. And now, are we going to see some blocks on Mara's side? Is this just going to come with the Enderai to guarantee an arsenal? We do have the Ponder, which will give Yuki 2 cards as well. But crucially, this card puts it in the arsenal face up. So, and also with 7 damage is actually threatening Mara to block. This is almost like 70% roughly of Mara's life total. Shade under it, something. There's some math, 7 out of 11, that's pretty big. But, yeah, this is 7 damage. So this is going to require a 3-card block, or like 2 cards in equipment, maybe. There are a lot of 2 defense cards in Mara's deck, so it's not going to be clean. This is going to take so many cards if Mara wants to even try to defend it. And there's a point for Mara to just not defend this at all. Try to keep a 5-card hand, apply pressure back, apply a board state, and then try to block out on a potentially weaker turn of Yuki's. But if this hits, we're going to get a card from from deck into Arsenal face up, and then drawing 2 cards, which means there's another card in Arsenal of Yuki's choice, one of the 2 of choice. And there we go, there's the 7 damage. Mara wants to keep 5 cards in hand, and maybe try to play a little bit slower here. And here we see Lightning Press. This is not the card you want to see when you are playing with 4 life remaining in the game. Functionally, if you're only able to stop all but 1 damage, we have lethal on board at this point. So that's just going to be looming over the game for the rest of it, and that's pretty threatening. Nothing Mara can do about that as well, other than maybe like a Command and Conquer or something, just to try to threaten that arsenal. But conversely, you can also use this Lightning Press defensively. Like if Mara attacks the dragon first, then Yuki can block with any sort of arrow that has 3 or more power, and suddenly it's a 6 power, and it will pop the dragon. So many different lines. This Lightning Press really is super threatening here. I can't think of a card that would have been better for Yuki to reveal here at this point. And of course, you don't even have to use it. If you attack and your opponent's forced to full block to not die, you can just, or overblock rather, you can just choose not to use it. And then have it as like your next attack. Just pump fake everything. It's going to force overblocks. This is a really tough position to be in. Yuki has 15 life over this. But here we see a Billowing Mirage? I think that's the name. It is a 1 cost 3 with Go Again that makes the Ashwing token. No on-hit effect. I can't imagine Yuki will care too much about this. Crucially, the dragons don't count as weapons in the same way that the auras did for Prism. So this frailty is not going to affect all these dragons coming in. And here we see a Chromai. We're going to see the Chromai before we attack with the dragons, just to kind of ensure that you have action points still. And this is kind of the board state that we were talking about, that Mara needs to kind of stay in this game. She still has access to 1 card in hand and 1 card in arsenal as well. We have 2 action points. This is coming in for 3. Now, Chromai is usually a dragon you don't mind popping. Even though they get the action points, it's kind of a frustrating dragon to deal with, rather to have to deal with if you don't pop it, because it just allows multiple dragon attacks even if Mara has no cards to play in that turn to turn on the Dromai hero ability. So normally this is the kind of dragon that you could consider popping. However, Mara is on 4, and there's kind of a chance that like if you just want to keep all 6 cards just to like guarantee lethal the next turn, like I don't know if it's possible for Dromai to deal 16 more damage from this position. Let's see, there's Chromai for 3 plus 1, the arcane damage, so that's 4. And then there's 1 from the Ashwing, which is 5. Yenrai is 8 total, so you'd still need like an 8 power. I guess if you had like the Dune Breakers, Ember Claw Senpai, the big red 8 damage Senpai, then you could threaten lethal. But there's a Tunic block still, so it's very unlikely, I think, that this is going to be the turn that Yuki takes lethal damage. But for now, we're just taking 1 damage, and there's, again, kind of no point popping this Ashwing. Because of those 2 action points, I believe Mara's asking Yuki to just double-check the graveyard for a quick popper count. We've seen 1 Command and Conquer. There might have been something else in the graveyard that I don't remember, but there's at least 1 Command and Conquer in the graveyard. it looks like... Oh, and here we have a Command and Conquer, like we mentioned. But this one was from Arsenal, so this one's only coming in for 4 because of those 2 frailties. And being on 4 is massive. This means that Yuki can block with a 3 defense card from hand, as well as the Tunic, and then keep 5 cards in hand. She will lose the Tunic counter, and there's no way to kind of use that this turn as far as I'm aware. But 3, like a 1-card block here with the Tunic is massive. Of course you don't want to block with New Horizons here. But, yeah, those frailties really causing a lot of difficulty for Mara here. If this was 6 power, this would require 2 cards, and then maybe you can kind of triple block an arrow to stay alive and have the dragons come back. The lightning press wouldn't have to be used there, but, you know. It would definitely be a lot better position than having this 4 power Command and Conquer here, with 1 action point remaining. I think Mara chose not to attack with the Yenderai as well. Maybe fear of getting popped. Well, yeah, we have that lightning press here. But a Command and Conquer for 4 is still threatening enough. So we're going to see some time being made on this block. Being taken, rather, on this block. Yuki's in a commanding position here. No pun intended. Yuki's in a commanding position and just wants to make sure that she has the full amount of resources available to her and not to mess up the play, you know. At this point, it almost feels like it's her game to win as opposed to her game to lose. I'm not sure what expression I'm trying to use. She's got the lead here. She's got the lead and doesn't want to throw the game by accident by blocking with the wrong cards, not giving herself enough resources. So we'll just have to wait and see. Interestingly enough, if she predicted this line, she could have used the Tunic counter previously to prevent that 1 arcane damage. But, you know, that's a bit of too much of a hedge there, I think. You know, what are the chances your opponent plays a Command and Conquer for 4 from Arsenal specifically? Like, non-zero, of course, but not very likely. It's not something you think about for the most part. Okay, we're just double-checking the graveyard, making sure everything's clear, and it looks like we're finally getting blocked. This is blocking for 2, but that's not a defense reaction. That's down and dirty, which is normally a popper in this matchup, but also just allows you to attack for 6. But also, it allows you to defend with it from Arsenal. So it gets around the defense reaction thing, because it's not a defense reaction, but it was one of the cards that Yuki drew from that Ponder. That's so good. And she got to keep the Tunic as well. The Enderai comes in afterwards because of that remaining action point. And Yuki's still up 5 life here after a 5-card hand came back at her because of those frailty tokens, just stopping that Command and Conquer, allowing her to keep resources. Now let's see what happens here. Does she have arrows? I think Mara's just checking the graveyard. Oh no, we're doing the burn them all triggers, of course. Goes up to 3. And now we're back into Yuki's turn with 3 cards in hand and a lightning press on Arsenal. What do we have here available to her? Now, of course, because there's no actual weapon that attacks in Yuki's deck, she does need to have an arrow available to her. But we're going to see a Rain Razors and a 3 of a kind. Oh my gosh, this turn is going to be so powerful if she can draw at least 1 arrow. Got 3 chances at it, and maybe the card in hand could have been an arrow as well. We'll need some number of resources, but I don't think we need too many resources at this point. But this turn is basically the perfect way that Yuki could close this game out. Let's just see what happens here. Now, crucially, we're not going to be able to play any cards from hand as per last time, but we've already got that Rain Razors out, so I don't think it's super important. We're pitching in blue for 2 resources here. Still got 2 cards in hand. 3 cards in hand, sorry. And here we're seeing a Bolton shot? Looks like it's red. Yep, that's 6 damage. Huh. What mode was chosen there? Surely not the Gogan. Maybe it's not red. Maybe I can't tell the color. But we have 6 damage coming across here. And of course this Lightning Press is threatening lethal. You have to stop all 6 damage. And here we're seeing that block for 6. Do we have another attack from Yuki here? Oh, we're thinking about the Lightning Press here. Now, the Lightning Press won't kill Mara on the spot, but it will allow a free reload, because it's going to empty out that arsenal. So we're just going to have to wait and see here what's the choice. It feels like he has all the options in the world, so... definitely a difficult place to be in. Looks like we're not going to use the Lightning Press, which Yuki did mention was her favorite card, and here we see the Bloodrot Arrow once again. I'm sorry, I'm bad with the names, but this one's coming in for 8 damage. So we're giving this +1 with a lightning press. This is basically impossible to stop at this point. And even if, like, you only leak, if you block with, I don't know, 8 cards in hand and one of them's a defense reaction, I guess that's live. You have 2 plus 3 plus, that'd be 9 on 11. Is that right? No, it has to be 2 defense reactions. If you have 2 defense reactions, that's 10 on 11, meaning you take 1 after the lightning press, and then the blood rot will take you down to 1. And like we mentioned, the blood rots are basically unstoppable. This might just be the end of the game at this point. Mara's already used 3 sync blows as well, so it's super unlikely that this is going to be able to be stopped. This could just be the end of it. We're contemplating on the blocks here. Just really thinking about this turn. There's no reason not to think about this. Mara's doing the math, trying to see if she can survive. But this blood rot token being made afterwards, with this lightning press in play, is basically just super threatening. I don't think there's any way to stop that. I don't know. Maybe there's a line I'm missing. But I just don't think the math adds up, and maybe this is the point where Mara realizes this is the end of the game. Oh, we're getting a block here, I think. Maybe she has the line to stay alive. Even if she does stay alive, I don't know if there's like a turn that can come back after this. There's a block for 5. That's not going to be enough, is it? Even as is, with the blood rot. And there's the lightning press, just kind of making Yuki have it. And there's a sigil gaining 3 life. So we're blocking for 5, gaining 3 on this 11 damage. So Mara goes up to 7, takes 6, going down to 1, and the blood rot's going to finish the game. Most likely, unless Yuki forgets the trigger, I guess, but somebody of this caliber isn't going to forget that. There's on hit, Yuki's reaching for the token. There's an arsenal, and I have to imagine this is the end of the game. I don't know if Mara can do anything else from this point. There's no hand left to use, so no resources either. Oh, of course, there's still the Dromai and the Enrai that can attack. The blood rot doesn't actually happen till the end of turn, so, you know, maybe Yuki just draws 4 cards that don't block and forgets about the tunics. But it looks like the board is being cleared up. So that will be the game for Week 6, Game 1, with Yuki on Lexi and Mara on Dromai. The Empress has been defeated in Round 6. What a game. Thank you very much for joining us today, and keep an eye out for the other Week 6 game. We have Robin and Arya in the undefeated bracket. We wanted to show you Table 1, so it should be super exciting. So come and join us, and we'll see you for the next one.